I call the Township of Aleppo workshop meeting of November 11, 2024 to order at 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
President Jones.
Present.
Vice President Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Darrow.
Present.
Commissioner Richard.
Present.
Commissioner Haluka. Solicitor Jewett.
Here.
Manager Patterson.
This meeting, as all others, will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. Do I hear a motion to approve the October 21st legislative meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 2025 budget.
I met with Finance Chair George Jones last week and have a few final little tweaks. So next week you'll get the formal budget transmittal memo that explains all the changes and things like that. So that'll be for you tomorrow, or I mean next week at the legislative meeting. That will be handed out.
Any explanatory comments on the budget this year? Any changes?
Nothing majorly significant. We don't have any large road programs planned at this point. So if we did, we would bring funding over from our capital improvements fund, but we do not have, with the engineers, we do not have any paving projects scheduled for 2025.
And while we're on budgets, would you report on the Moody's evaluation?
Yes, so we periodically have to get our bond rating reviewed by Moody's because we have outstanding, bond issue. And we had one of the periodic interviews and with them this past week, and they actually upgraded our bond rating. So we went from an A3 to an A2. So we got notice on Friday that our bond rating was increased, or improved, which is very nice. And then we have to post that on our website, and we have to post that on the MO system. It was nice.
Good work.
Nice news.
Does
Any
that reduce
question?
our interest?
Pardon me?
Does that reduce our interest rate?
It could have an
No.
effect if we refinance.
If you refinance, yeah.
I mean, it's based, the rating is based, in our case, primarily on the ratio of debt to annual budget and reserves to annual budget. We're very healthy on both counts. But for a township of our size to originally borrow $8 million put us in a bad position. But it's improving. The November legislative meeting will be at the Aleppo Fire Station.
Right?
Upcoming Comcast.
So next week, we advertise this, the Comcast franchise agreement, which is the agreement that gives Comcast permission to operate in Aleppo, is up for renewal. And the board engaged Cohen Law Group to negotiate that because that's kind of their specialty. And so part of the negotiation is to have a public hearing where citizens are able to discuss the delivery of their services, not their bill, not the fact that sometimes they can't get the channels they want. This is more if we have areas that are not served by Comcast, if they say that they can't run a line to their house, or any kind of like service delivery as a whole. So next week, we do not need a court reporter for that, but we will have that, that'll be part of our minutes. And then there's a bit of an introductory script that is provided that, I don't know whether it will be Harlan or George can read that part and open up the floor to any public comment that we may have on that issue.
When will that be?
Next week during the legislative week.
Okay. Police contract.
We had the original contract was 3 years with 2 option years. And last year, the board voted to exercise the first option year. So the second option year is coming up. We have to give them 6 months notice before the end of the contract year. The contract ends June 30th. So we want to get that in front of you so that you guys can decide to extend the contract for the final year of this contract, and then I'll get that notice over to them in plenty of time to meet that option year deadline.
Have they extended, have they extended their area at all?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think that they've taken on anybody else since they took us on.
Youngblood paving contract?
This is for the 2024 tar and chip project that was just completed, and there was one small change order, and that was just for quantity. You know, some of that stuff is measured by how many feet and how much material they need. So there's a small change order increasing the contract for by $2,275.30. And so then next week, if you vote to approve that change order, then the next motion could be approve the pay request from them for $131,038.30, which would be a one-time pay request. That was how much the whole project cost. So if you could do those motions back to back next week, then we can pay for the work that was just done.
And while we're there, we had one complaint. Did you read the complaint?
I did. We received a complaint that said that the surface of Swiftly Heights Drive is bumpy. And we asked if there were if there was anything else planned for that
I
road
received
this year.
two similar complaints. And
And
it's one that it is much darker with that coating on it, because it's very dark black, and that it's bumpy with stones in it that people are liable to trip on.
well, the answer to the question that I received was, you know, there's no further work planned for that Swiftly Heights Drive. The tar and chip coat is a gravel coat designed to extend the life of the pavement below it. And it does wear in over time. It's very new. That coat is very new. Especially if there's any plowing this winter, that kind of
It
wears
has
down
started.
the gravel surface. So no work is planned for that street.
So it should get less bumpy and quieter. Correct?
Less bumpy, yes.
Any other discussion about the tar and chip? Local share account grant application resolutions.
That is the name of a certain grant program that we're applying for. We have two grants going in, one for the Weber Road culvert project. And that is the pipe that runs underneath, there's a very large, like, you can walk through it, pipe that runs underneath the entrance to Weber Road. And that has a little separation in it, and so we're looking to see if we can get funding for a project to either line or patch or restore that so that that can stay intact. And then the second one is a stabilization grant for Rhodes Avenue, so we're seeking funding for that as well. And next week, the board will be voting on the resolutions that are required as part of that grant application.
Any questions?
How much are they for?
The one for Rhodes Avenue is $1 million ask, and the one for Weber Road is, I think, 300 and some thousand, I'm not exact,
$299,750.
that much. Just comes up.
The annual contribution of $40,000 to the authority.
For the last, I think starting in 2021, the commissioners, after one of the bond refinances, passed a resolution to review the finances every year and decide whether or not to make a $40,000 contribution from the sewer bond fund to the Aleppo Township Authority with the intention of holding off potential rate increases. And so it's the end of the year, we do this every year, so this is the end of the year, and if the board is inclined to make that contribution again, you can vote on it next week, and then we can get that payment over to them before the end of the
And
calendar
this is the
year.
money that we can only use towards
Sewer things, correct.
And the source of the funds that we draw upon is,
The sewer bond payments that are made by sewer customers,
at
Made
which,
by whom?
sewer customers.
and it came substantially from the two refinancings. Christmas tree recycling.
We would like to continue with that project again this year. We have, pretty consistent participation among the residents. And so we traditionally do that the Monday after the new year. So we will be confirming that date with Tim just to make sure that he didn't plan a vacation that day that I wasn't aware of. But we will be sending out the red postcards that you get, that all residents get. Patty will get those prepared and sent out in mid-December, and they'll have the official date on it. But we're planning to do it again this year.
2025 meeting schedule.
In your packet, you will have the meeting schedule for 2025 for all the different meetings that the township hosts. We have planning commission, zoning hearing board, workshop, and legislative, and then we also included the Aleppo Township Authority meetings too, just so you have it all in one spot. And we have to advertise all of the township meetings, so that's gonna be advertised in the next few weeks. Just wanted to give you a heads up of, if there were any changes because of holidays or things like that.
Where can we advertise it now?
We advertise in used to be called the Allegheny Times, now it's called the Times, it was a Beaver County Times.
Okay.
And that is correct, but we also, anytime we advertise anything, we put it on our website under public notices, because our residents can find it a lot more easily there than they can there. We can't advertise in the Herald because that is free, and advertising has to be done in newspapers with paid circulation. And when they took the Herald to be a free paper, it no longer qualified as a place that we could advertise, even though that's the one that our people read. So,
Do we submit it to the Herald informally?
we don't.
I think we
We
should.
could submit it to them under their community notes rather
Right.
than just an advertising thing, but we could do that, we could send that to them.
You can always supplement with an additional paper, but you just have to make sure one of them meets the definition of
Good.
newspaper general
I
circulation.
know some of the other municipalities do that. Appointments to boards and commissions.
At the end of every year, terms end on the various boards and commissions, and Patty prepares a letter to go out to everyone currently serving, letting them know that their terms are ending and asking them to reapply if they are interested in reapplying. So we have 4 spots that were open, that open every year, different people at different times of terms on the authority, the zoning hearing board, the planning commission, and then the vacancy chair, which is the person who would break a tie in the case of a commissioner vacancy that the other commissioners can't decide on an appointment. So Patty has those letters just about ready to go, and they're gonna go out to the people who are currently serving and their terms are ending and asking them to reapply if interested. This also gets advertised in the paper, and a notice gets put on our website to invite any other interested residents to go to have them.
And the fall conference update or report.
I went to the fall conference in Erie about 2 weeks ago and attended all the sessions, and we had some sessions on cybersecurity. And it is good that we have cyber insurance, but I did learn a few tips about ways to test our system that would help us learn some things and also help with the cyber insurance, because a lot of times they seek ways to not pay a claim, but if we do a few of these other things, it will help us get them to pay a claim. We had a solicitor panel, and it was just kind of a Q&A session, ask a solicitor anything. And we learned some stuff about the right to know stuff and agendas and Sunshine Act, so those are always fun because solicitors just fire off answers, so I like those.
Did you have a chance to attend?
I was on the panel.
She was firing off answers. And it was one of those people that were firing off
smiling.
She's
answers.
a right to know expert, so she had to field a lot of the questions.
Well, it's nice to have an expert in the room.
It was a
Firing off
pleasure.
answers.
It was quite nice. We had a good time. It was a good panel,
Yeah, those
I
are fun,
think.
yes, those are fun.
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, definitely.
It always has been.
Zoning trends and topics, where we got to be the positive example in the room, because that was presented by Laura and Lori from HRG, and those are the 2 consultants who wrote our zoning ordinance, so they got to say a couple times, well, we just did Aleppo's, and just did Aleppo's, so that was nice to I just got to sit there and smile during that one. Saw a presentation from the county controller's office about how the funding for homelessness is being used in Allegheny County, whether it's being used efficiently or inefficiently, so that was a different kind of presentation. We had a Q&A type session on the Ethics Act by a couple other solicitors, and that was, we played a game. So those of us in the room they presented scenarios, and we had to discuss amongst ourselves and decide if it was, yes. That was fun, we got most of them right, so those of us in the audience were proud, but we didn't get them all right. And we have a session on labor and employment law, and a session on ADA compliance for websites. And I learned a few things there that we need to look into, so we got some good resources from that one too.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Donation request from Quaker Valley Ambulance Authority.
Every year they do Quaker Valley Ambulance does a fundraiser drive, and the last, I believe, 2 years, Patty, the township has voted to contribute, in the past 2 years, it was $250 to that fund drive.
So moved.
Commissioner Haluka, any comment?
No, that's been going on for 25 years or more.
Do you want me to put it on the agenda for next week?
Well, Commissioner Dara just so moved.
We could so move that if you would like.
Is there a second?
Second.
$250? Is that, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Was there any citizen participation other than the road comment and the signage? Could you give a brief explanation of the political signage?
We got a question about political signs and flags and what any regulations are regarding those. And if they are in the public right-of-way, we can do something about it, but if they're on private property, we do not do anything about political things, flags, signs, anything on private property.
Good.
But the manor has a bylaw that prohibits them.
Political signage, right. That's because it's their property.
Right.
No, it's our property. It's not their property, it's the owner's property. It's common property.
True. And the center strip is actually ours.
Yes, the center strip is the township's.
Any other new business?
Yes. Before you hit the gavel. Just prepare in your head, I've been asked to organize not a tabletop, but a true, disaster drill for Masonic, probably in the spring, which will entail literally doing a disaster response, not tabletop with paper, but actually walking through a disaster response. And we will most probably kind of pigtail onto that and activate our emergency management, activate our EOC. So it will check us off for a couple years as well as check theirs off simultaneously. So I'm gonna meet with them in the next month or so to work on the EOC and talk about it, so just.
Thank you. We're adjourned.